Alright, this is 8.5, writing the equation of a line. So now, instead of getting a line and interpreting information from it, what we're going to do is we're going to get the information and we're going to have to come up with a line. So we are still going to use slope-intercept form, which we've been over, y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope, is the value for the slope, b is the value for the y-intercept, and then x and y are different values on the graph. So knowing that, let's go in here. So to draw a line, we need to have the slope and we need to have the y-intercept. If we have those two things, we can just write it and fill in the values here. Okay. All right, so here's the example one. Write an equation that gives with slope is 2/5 and the y-intercept is at 0, -6. Some of you missed this ordered pair thing on your quiz. But if we already know that information, it makes it easy for us to fill out because we know slope-intercept form. So mx plus b, the m is 2/5 x, and plus, and y-intercept would be -6, or in other words, -6. So that's real easy. We basically are just plugging in the values that they give us for example 1. All right, example 2. You are given the slope of -1/3 and you're given a point on the line. So you're not given b. All right, well, we have to find b. All right, so to find b, what we're going to do is we're going to plug in the values that we do have. I have the slope. Since we have a point on the line, 6, 0, I can now plug 6 in for x and 0 in for y. So that would be the y, the m, and the x, and that would leave me with the b. And that will help me solve to find the y-intercept. So what we're going to do here is we're going to say the y value would be 0, because remember, all points on a line satisfy this equation. M is going to be, you can see what, -1/3. X is going to be 6. We don't know what b is. Okay, so now we're going to solve for b. So -1/3 times 6, remember it's like 6 over 1, cancel out, should be -2 plus b equals 0. And then I'm going to add 2 to both sides. So b equals 2. All right, so I know b. I know that the slope is -1/3. Where did I get that? It was in the problem. And now I can write my equation off of these two pieces of information. I can say y equals m x plus b. Okay? All right, that makes sense. Example 3. We are given two ordered pairs. All right, so 2 points on the line. So now we don't have a slope and we don't have a y-intercept. Well, we've already done the part where if we're given 2 points, we can find the slope, right? We should know that. We should know that as y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. All right, so we fill those values in. 4 minus 1 over 2 minus 1. We get 3 over 1, which is 3. So we know the slope is 3. And then how do we find the y-intercept? Well, this goes back to example number 2, where we had the slope. We have a point on the line. We actually have 2 points on the line, don't we? And we can use that to find b. Okay. Now, the second step is to choose either of the 2 points for x and y when we plug it in. And when I choose either one, I should get the same answer. Okay, so it doesn't matter. I need to pick the first one, the second one, it doesn't matter as long as you're consistent. Pick the same x and y value. So what we're going to do is we're going to say y, oops, excuse me, we're not going to say y. Let's pick a point. Let's pick the first point. Let's pick this one right here. All right, so we're going to say y equals m, which is 3. X is going to be 1 plus b. Let's do it over here just so you see. If we pick the other one, it would be 4 equals m. X is 2 plus b. See if we come up with the same answer here for b. Alright, so this is going to be 3 plus b equals 1. Subtract 3. b is equal to negative 2. 6 plus b, you can already see it, negative 6, negative 6. So b is equal to negative 2. Do you have to do it both ways? No, just pick one. Pick one you like, pick numbers that are easy to work with. Alright, so we have b as negative 2, and we have the slope as 3. So I'm just going to write it here just for ease of writing an equation. So now we can say y equals 3x minus 2. We actually fill in our values right there. Okay, so we're always working to try to get b, slope-intercept, and the slope. Excuse me, the y-intercept and the slope. All right, now to go from slope-intercept to standard form, okay, it's going to be a task for us. So we're going to have an equation that looks something like this, and we want to get it to look like this. So the first thing you can probably figure out is we're going to rearrange these things here. All right, there's an x term in the standard form, then there's a y term, and it equals a number. All right, well, we have that over here. We got a number, we got an x term and a y term. So what we're going to want to do is get the x and the y on one side, and then there's one more little parameter that we have to have for standard form, and that is, you got to remember this, a, b, and c are integers. And what that means is they can't be fractions. A lot of times in this form we have fractions. We'll talk about how to get rid of the fractions. Okay, let's try the first one. So here's slope-intercept form, and we want to put it into standard form. So the first thing I want to do is I want to get the x on the other side. So I'm going to subtract 3x. And so I'll have negative 3x. What's my thing here? Negative 3x plus y equals negative 2. Alright, are a, b, and c, in other words, all the numbers here, are they all integers? Yes, they are. So we're okay. So there's standard form. Alright, number 2. Same thing, let's get the x on the other side. So we're going to add 2/5 x to both sides. So I'm going to write the x part first. X plus y equals, what's left is negative 4. Does it matter whether the x or the y is first? Yes, in standard form. It does matter. Does the value change? No, but they ask for standard form, and that means x value plus y value equals a coefficient, or a number, excuse me, constant. All right, now this works, x plus y equals negative 4, but we don't have all integers. So how do I get rid of all the integers? Well, let's find the LCD. All right, and we're going to multiply both sides, sometimes you forget this, by the lowest common denominator. Now for this, there's only one fraction, so the lowest common denominator is going to be 5. So we're going to multiply all of this, both sides, times 5. And when I do that, I'm going to get 2x plus 5y equals negative 20. And now I have standard form. All right, the next problem. Write an equation parallel to a given line. All right, so the example is that, and we talked about this earlier, that parallel lines have the same slope. Do they have to have the same intercept? No, they do not. In fact, if they are the same intercept and the same slope, you basically have a line on top of each other. Okay? So most definitely, parallel lines do not have to have the same intercept, but the same slope. So here's our problem. We are given y equals 2/3 x plus 6, and we are told a point, an ordered pair, -6, 12. Write an equation that is parallel to this line, to the given line, and contains this point. And they want that in slope-intercept form. Okay, so the first thing is, what is the slope of this line right here? The slope of the line given is 2/3. All right, so what is the slope going to be of our line? It has to be 2/3. Okay. Why do I write it like that? Because sometimes when it's perpendicular, it might be a different value. In this way, we can tell what our which ones we're talking about. So for this one, it has to contain -6, 12. Well, guess what? We've already done this process before. We were given a slope, we were given a point. So if I know y equals mx plus b, I just plug in the values now. I'll write it down for reference here. Okay, so the y value is the point on the line. It could be any point, we just have one. The slope is 2/3 because it's the same as the original line. The x value is -6, and we don't know what b is. Okay, it's going to help us find the intercept. So -6 times 2/3, we cancel that, and we're going to get -4. Oops, not equals, plus b equals 12. It's missing. And we're going to add 4 to both sides, so we get 16 equals b. And my slope, make sure we're talking about M2 of our line, alright, is that. So when I write the equation, y equals 2/3 x plus 16. Alright? Lovely. And you're done. So bring those notes to class.